Listen, I'm easy to find. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. This is episode 12. Yes, episode 12 of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. In this episode, we are going over the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington Commanders draft night. 2022 draft. In this video, we're going to break down the draft, each draft pick, and we're going to give a final grade for both teams, how they did well in the draft. I'm going to start with the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders going into this offseason, I should say. Some questions that had to be answered. I think last year, kind of the question, I think trying to figure out, dealing with this whole Daniel Snyder mess, number one. And then number two, kind of wanted to see where Riverboat Ron was with his decision making. To me, he gave away hints of what he was going to do with this draft, and he made it clear to me they had to they got the quarterback. Even though I have questions about him in terms of his consistency and staying healthy. Now they have to protect him and get some pieces. They drafted with the 60th overall pick, Johan Dobson out of Penn State. Now, to me, I see the offense they made the offense very diverse. Now you've got, along with Dobson, you get a healthy Curtis Samuel back, De'Ami Brown back, McLaurin. Once they get their contract situation, negotiation situated, that offense can actually be interesting. There's a lot of versatility. If you're paying attention and watch their games, from a wide receiver position, that's a lot of versatility. The biggest issue a lot of you had last season with Washington, their offense is very ineffective for the last going on 4 years, and a lot of it because of not having a stability at the quarterback position and not having weapons at wide receiver, tight end, and running back. Now, particularly wide receiver. Now I think you got a better option than Wentz. Taylor. I keep saying Tyler. Taylor Heineke is just a backup. That's all he is. If my concern is why trading back? You added a playmaker, but there's a lot of questions I have about him. His strength and is an issue to me. And then number two, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel's coming off last year where he injuries. And De'Ami Brown only caught 8 passes. Obviously, everyone's having high hopes on Curtis Samuel, but the key is for him to stay healthy. Dealing with Terry McLaurin and his contract situation. Then you got to look at it like from this standpoint. Where is Dobson going to play? Is he going to play the 2 or is he going to play the 3? And also, you got to figure out Cam Sims. That's really his only true big target, other than Logan Thomas. But from the wide receiver position, the biggest thing Washington going into the season with these 5 wide receivers is number 2 is consistency. You need a consistent target outside of McLaurin. And I just kind of have questions about that. But I gave the pick, I believe I said it was a B+. In the second round, we had the second round, we had the 47th overall pick. We picked Fedarian Mathis out of Alabama. We did some depth at defensive tackle, losing Tim Settle, and we also cut Matt Matt Leonidas, excuse me, tongue twister. And then also to Darren Payne, who I would hope will stay. This would be his last. This is his last year of his contract. I think he'll stay. To me, I think he'll definitely help against the run. I did my research on him. Not really a pass rusher, more of a run stopper, defensive tackle, which is okay. Which is okay for me. I do think last year, if you're watching the games, so unfortunately we got to talk about it, but there was some chemistry issues, and I didn't like that, and I feel like I think getting someone like this will be good, and I'm kind of confused because I thought they were going to go safety, but they stuck with the building defensive line. Okay. In the third round with the 98th overall pick, we got Brian Robinson Jr. out of Alabama. They actually needed. I didn't really understand the need of a wide receiver, in my personal opinion, because you had, other than Antonio Gibson, McKissick's back, and you got Jared Patterson. I would have thought that you would have given them more responsibility going into going into this season. I like the pickup because Gibson played through a turf toe all this past season, and because I'll be honest, I just feel like McKissick and Patterson didn't show me enough of who could be a solid backup option. And I'm curious to see what Robinson Jr. look like in the draft. He's a power runner. He's a north and south guy. I think definitely Washington will love that. But Washington historically always picks guys like this. At Alabama, he had about 1,300 yards in rushing, and he actually did start in the championship game. MVP honors. So I definitely think for short yardage purposes, Washington will love him. But if you're McKissick and if you're Patterson, you're going to have to really watch. You're right about that. Yes. But we'll see. Because unfortunately, somebody's going to have to go. And McKissick stayed. He re-signed because he was supposed to go to Buffalo, but he re-signed. So I'll leave you to keep 4 running backs. Let's go to the 4th round. We picked Percy Butler out of Louisiana. Okay, so obviously we need some depth at safety, and I think Butler will do well. I think he'll bring depth to the defense, but also too, you might see him get some special teams. I do feel like we're going to have to develop him more into into a special teams guy. We need him more in the 3 safety sets. To me, I've always don't understand why Washington. They went at a smaller school. Historically, we've always gone at the big schools. I would have thought they would have picked up Jaquan Brisker. I thought that would have been a good pick at safety for Washington, but they took Mathis, which take your pick. Robinson's a bruiser. I agree. I think he'd be a good running back. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the pick. They're going to have to. There's going to be some development there with him for sure. Then in the 5th round with the 144th overall pick, we picked Sam Howell out of that school in North Carolina. Interesting. I actually had Sam Howell going in the 1st round. Um, you get some competition behind Carson Wentz. To me, this is just strictly to help to develop a solid backup. But this is just to create competition between him. Yeah, I agree, Nathan. That's who we wanted there. Let's go, Sam Howell, my guy. You called it. You called it on the round table. You're like Sam Howell, baby, and something like that. Because it was an episode where Nick had tried to make a joke about the Washington. What did he say? You should call yourself the Washington something, and you kicked him out. And you brought. We said something like what? And that's when you kicked him out. And that's when he talked about, I'm not going to talk about my team with the 11th overall pick. And that's when you said, Sam Howell, baby. That's what you said. I remember that episode. I can't remember what episode it was, but that was, and that's the episode I remember you called it. But that's really just what it's it for me with Sam Howell. It's just to create some competition back there. Because, I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke. That's it. Now, if there is some screw-ups with Mr. Wentz, you could see Mr. Sam Howell and Mr. Heineke getting some starts.
Guaranteed.
I could see that, possibly. Could see that. We're in the 5th round, 5 picks later with the 149th overall pick. We picked Cole Turner out of Nevada. This is actually interesting. I felt like Washington did need another pass-catching tight end. Mr. Logan Thomas, who is recovering from an ACL injury. And then John Bates is more of a blocker, and he kind of is a hybrid wide receiver. And then also, too, Sammy Reyes, I mean, is a basketball player who is wet behind the ears, his breath smells like Similac. So we're not going to throw him out there to the wolves like that. So I think you needed a true bet number 2 tight end behind Logan Thomas. But he's 6'6". I think you can use him in some certain wide receiver sets in certain situations. And, I really think he's a good all-around tight end, not just about the blocking, but I think he can excel as a pass-catching tight end and as a wide receiver. So I think this is a good pickup for Washington for sure. We going in the 7th round with the 230th pick. We picked Chris Paul, not Chris Paul for the Phoenix Suns, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Paul out of Tulsa, offensive guard. We definitely need to get some interior for the offensive line. I don't see him starting at any point. I still need some to me development. Still, I look the scouting report on him. His footwork needs some work, and to me, Washington at times lacked physicality up front and right guard, because now Brandon Sheriff is gone. That's kind of going to be the question. So probably you could see Chris Paul starting. But, give a shout out to Coach Matsko. He does a fantastic job at developing guys at the offensive line. Even though we could have kept Eric Flowers. Eric Flowers can play left or right guard, but that's okay. So I'm kind of curious to see how that'll work. But I do think that may actually be a good pick for us. And then we finished our draft for Washington. We had the 240th overall pick, and we picked Christian Holmes out of Oklahoma State. We needed depth, and this was another area where we needed some depth, more competition. To me, your starters are William Jackson III, Kendall Fuller, and then Brandon St. Just. To me, I think they'll have Christian Holmes probably 5th or 6th on that depth chart. He could make the team, I do think he is he's to me, from what I've read, he's very aggressive. I do think that he has good size for a corner. I looked at his height. He's about 6 feet. No, 5'11". Excuse me. He's going to be tough. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm kind of curious to see how he fits in. I'm curious because I was surprised we didn't go after a linebacker. But I understand defensive tackle, and I understood why we made those picks. Corner, it was kind of really we just really had to just start building some depth, and also too like I don't think really trading back was really great in my opinion. We passed up on someone like we passed up on Chris Olave. Drake London had went to Atlanta with the 8th pick. We could have got Treylon Burks. I don't know. I feel like, but I think we did. It was smart to get more draft capital with the second with for us. I think it was smart. But I just at first I'm like, well, we had the guy that we wanted, and who do I think would be a project? Dobson. Is that what you're asking? Will Dobson be a project? I mean, I really think this offense is going to be a project because I just think now you got a new quarterback. You get Samuel Curtis back healthy. You get Logan Thomas back healthy. Let's see what De'Ami Brown looks like. How you fit Cam Sims in there. Drawing a blank. And then Dobson. How do you fit those guys and McLaurin? What is that offense going to look like? Then you got to figure out your running game. We all know AG is going to be the number 1 guy. Then behind him, who's the number 2 and 3 guy? Those are the questions I have about this offense. This offense, to me, Scott Turner is going to have his work cut out for him. He's going to have to really rejuvenate this offense, in my opinion. But realistically, for being honest, I'm gonna give the Washington Commanders as a whole draft grade B+. I think we did a great job. To me, I just feel like they addressed depth, and to me, competition. I'm not mad at it. I really do think that I think a solid B+ is fair. If you pushed me, I think they could have addressed linebacker. I'm not mad at getting a defensive lineman. I'm really not mad at the picks because those were the areas of concern. The Sam Howell pick, though. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think it's a solid B plus for me. I like that great. I have them maybe. I can't wait. Shout out to Sean Spencer, he and Will Kramer at South Carolina's finest, Washington Football Weekly. I know for a fact Will Kramer, he's going to probably not like some of these picks. I can see Will being a little harsh. He'll probably give him a C+. I could see that. Guaranteed. Oh, Try Turner. Yeah, it's definitely a reset after what happened in Pittsburgh. He didn't have to be a part of that trash. I'm just kidding. I didn't appreciate him getting blamed for the loss, and when it really wasn't his fault. I'm not letting that go. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Turner's a good offensive lineman, 5-time Pro Bowler. Most likely he'll start at left guard. No, actually, but he'll probably start at right guard. But you could put him at left. That's what I'm saying. Like Eric Flowers, I'm kind of mad we cut him. I think that offensive line would have been kind of solid to me, but Man, it's had to let him go, but hoping we can get him. I hope we can re-sign him. But it's all good. So let's go to Baltimore. Last year, we needed everything. Everything. What could have went wrong, went wrong. 20 plus players were on the IR. We had people questioning our practices, signing guys off the street. Starting quarterback got hurt. Missing the playoffs. We're in the playoff contention until week 17. You have people calling for John Harbaugh's job still. You have people that have been whining and complaining about trading Hollywood Brown and why we didn't get a replacement for him. Eric DeCosta in the front office, to me, did a fantastic job with this draft. I think what they did was amazing. Learning from the great Ozzie Newsome. Eric really, this was Eric DeCosta's this was his really first year with the training wheels off to see what he could do. And the draft is always, to me, the important part of a GM's job because, yeah, you're going to hit and miss with some players, but we want to know, are you paying attention to what we're seeing? And with that being said, with the 14th overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens selected Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. I'll be honest, I was shocked that he was right there. This was the best available player because after Philadelphia, I'll get to that in a second. After Philadelphia had stolen Jordan Davis. No.
Bullshit.
From us, with the 13th overall pick, we went with the best available player in Kyle Hamilton. Safety was a mid-tier issue for me because Deshaun Elliott is gone, and you didn't sign Marcus Williams. You do have Chuck Clark, but we needed some physicality back then. I do think you're going to get that with Marcus and Chuck and Kyle. But for me, I think the secondary had to be addressed regardless. I know his 40-yard dash was not the greatest. And I don't understand what this is. I know this is for the last 5 drafts. Safeties are not valued in the first round. That's neither here nor there. But now you got Clark, Marcus Williams. You get a healthy Marlon Humphrey, a healthy Marcus Peters, a Darius Washington, Stevens. That's a healthy secondary. Now, I think the biggest thing was a lot of people, we agreed, pass rusher, corner, offensive lineman. But Trent McDuffie was on the board. Jermaine Johnson was still there on the board. And Trevor Penning. But I do think that it was the best available player. I would have taken any one of those players. I would have personally taken McDuffie because you need a slot corner. I would have loved to take Penning because you do have to address the left tackle situation because Ronnie Stanley is not getting any younger. And even though he's making good progress, I do have concerns that there may be a setback. It's just me. This is just my opinion. Pass rush, I felt like we were going to address that regardless of the draft because we had enough capital where I think it could have been addressed. I would have taken any one of those picks. But DeCosta did say it. This was the best available player. And I'm not mad at it. Now, he's going to help this defense. Now, to me, Kyle Hamilton is going to help this defense because this defense we led the league in the defense had the most passing yards against it. And we had the 5th fewest interceptions. Like, those are things that can't be ignored. Would Jermaine Johnson have fixed that? Sure. McDuffie? Sure. But I think with Kyle Hamilton, you get some size, and I think you get a generational talent. All of those guys are generational talents, ladies and gentlemen. But you take your pick. With the 25th overall pick, we got Tyler Linderbaum. We traded. We had the 23rd pick in exchange for Marquise Brown. St. Louis had that pick, but we traded with Buffalo down to the 25th pick. Now, I'm going to explain the Linderbaum pick, and I'm getting the Marquise Brown because I already explained this in the previous video with the draft grades, but I'll explain it again. A center we needed to address the center position regardless, because to me, there was nobody really that swept you off your feet to go in the free agency. I'll sign that guy. Bradley Bozeman was offered a contract extension during the season. He declined it. That was his choice. Everybody said go get the guy from Cleveland, J.C. Trotter. No. To me, I felt like because the point of and it was clear if you watched and listened to the press conferences, they made a point. They emphasized revamping this offensive line because that offensive line last year was an eyesore to watch. And to me, you had to start developing some protection for Lamar Jackson. Let's just keep it real, because Lamar Jackson was hit 16 times last year per game. That's a true stat. I couldn't believe that. That is the most hits any quarterback's taken in the last 15 years. I couldn't believe that. There's no way my quarterback should be getting hit 16 times. That tells me that we did a horrible job, but we should have put our foot down when trading Orlando Brown Jr. The signing of Alejandro Villanueva was a panic signing. And then number 2, the young guys, Ben Cleveland, Ben Powers. You had Tyree Phillips at one point at right tackle when he's not a tackle. Patrick McCarry. You had Tristan Colin Castillo. Like, the young guys, I was looking for some guys to step up. I couldn't find it. You're arguing your best offensive lineman was Kevin Zeitler. That was it. Now, it's different because you went out, you got Morgan Moses, who I think is going to be a great addition to the offensive line. You got Kevin Zeitler. Now you got Lindenbaum. You're most likely going to have Patrick McCarry starting at left guard, even though I kind of feel like Ben Powers is more like for depth. Probably see what Tyree Phillips is going to do. And then you're going to run a healthy Ronnie Stanley back. That offensive line, it's more solidified, and everybody's happy. But the biggest issue is just the health of this offensive line, plain and simple. I feel like getting him is definitely going to help. There's stability in the middle as a center. I value it. I said this, I'll continue to say this. Ladies and gentlemen, I value offensive linemen. because I want to protect my investment. I value the whole offensive line. I don't care if it's a center, guard, tackle. I value them because look at Kansas City, Buffalo, now Cincinnati, the Los Angeles Chargers. If you pick the Jets, they're building an offensive line to protect their investment. That's what Baltimore had to do. They had to start protecting their future investment in Lamar Jackson. That's just me. But with the Marquise thing, Marquise Brown made it clear he was not a fan of the run first offense. Even though it's amazing to me that a guy who got 1,000 yards of receiving last year, who was the number one wide receiver, is going to go into a situation where you're most likely now going to be the number 2, number 3 option. Now, because DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for, was it 6 games?
What? What? And you got to be kidding me.
So now I don't really see how you go from Baltimore to Arizona, because I feel like Marquise Brown is going to lose some touches on the ball, because now you Kyler Murray now has to you got to keep everybody happy. I'm not upset about it. I wish him all the best, but historically, ladies and gentlemen, since our existence, Baltimore has always been a run-first team. Baltimore is a ground and pound team. That's never going to change. That's just fact. I look at that. Obviously, the NFL is a passing league, but it's just like with basketball. You live by the 3, you die by the 3. Like, I just feel like with Baltimore, they can balance the offense. But I just didn't understand. And I watched the clip. He requested the trade. He wanted out as far as his second year in with the team. Clearly, he took a shot at Greg Roman, which we'll understand that this is Greg Roman's last year. He either has to he needs to open the playbook and make the adjustments, or time's up. Now this year, there's no more excuses. We gave him the players that he wanted for his system. He can't get it done. Time's up. That's just the reality. Now, I didn't like the fact that there were comments from people on Twitter and other realms of media saying that the moment we traded Marquise Brown, we had to instantly draft a receiver. I don't understand why the first thing that comes to someone's mind is a wide receiver. When, if you paid attention, the first round pick last year got hurt, so he was out for a good 5-6 weeks. Then you got 2 guys that should have gotten more opportunities in Poche and Duvernay, and you're going to see that this year. Then you got Wallace, and again, you still got 5 months left until the season starts. You could find it like a Jarvis Landry cheap, or you could get somebody that's a reliable option. Not a Julio Jones nor a T.Y. Hilton. No, I just can't see that. But I think it's unfair to those with the impede. It kind of impedes those guys that, to me, that have been trying to find their way and trying to really see what they can do. Because I believe this is the year for Wallace, Duvernay, and Poche to shine. Because I've seen the potential this past season of what they can be in this system. I'm just not a fan of the fact that I think it's the way Marquise did it, because it's not just him, but it's really I just don't understand the modern day athlete today. It's interesting. It's not all, but it's some. I gotta. It's about my numbers, this and that, and it's not about putting the team first. Like I don't understand. Here is your boy is trying to keep you happy and give you the ball. You got 1,000 yards last season, and you were picked 5th overall, and there are a lot of questions, particularly when it comes to the drops. But I don't understand, as early as your second year, I want out. Like that says more about stats and not about sacrificing. To me, you want to play with many great players, but this emphasis of we're winning, but I just don't understand the modern day athlete because it just, if I'm example Tyreek Hill, I'm all about you getting your money. But if we're winning championships in Kansas City, why would I sacrifice that? Because suppose it don't work in Miami, then what? Stephon Diggs, great wide receiver. Buffalo don't make the championship, then what? AJ Brown. See, it's more about, to me, like, okay, you got your money, you're going to go to this team. Now what? Like when he goes to Arizona, they're going to get a great player. I believe he's going to make the Pro Bowl, but he's not the number one option in Arizona, ladies and gentlemen. He's most likely be number 2 and number 3 option. Now, I also felt like there was most likely some animosity. He probably felt some kind of way with Rashard Bateman getting drafted. Because let's keep real. Hollywood Brown is not a number 1 wide receiver. He's more like a 2, maybe a 3. Rashard Bateman, to me, is our true number 1 wide receiver. And there were some other comments I heard that I didn't like about, in terms of being used in the system and all this other stuff. I didn't understand that. But again, if you watched the games and you actually understood, for like 6 weeks, he was out. And there was a good chunk of, there was a couple games where he was getting a lot of touches on the ball. But a lot of it had to do with, 2, remember, Lamar Jackson wasn't there, number 1. Number 2, Tyler Huntley started some of those games, ladies and gentlemen. And number 3, the team was already in shambles going into week 17 from when Lamar got hurt at Cleveland until we lost against Pittsburgh. So with all that being said, I'm not mad at Marquise. I wish him all the best. He's going to do great in Arizona. He's reunited with Kyler Murray. So there should be no excuses for Arizona. They have the formula to win. They were 7-0 in the first half of the season, and then they completely just shrunk. So they have no excuse. It's championship or bust. Plain and simple. But let me get off that. Let me get back to breaking down the rest of the Ravens draft. We drafted Travis Jones in the third round out of Connecticut. Again, even though we got Michael Pierce back, Michael Pierce is not getting any younger. So to me, Travis Jones is a potential future starter because we didn't re-sign Brandon Williams because I just felt like you gave him $15.5 million and I mean, we had success. I mean, Brandon Williams is a good player. We had Justin Mabuke. Also, I think look for him to have a good year. I definitely think just that interior defensive line was something that needed to be addressed. We got to get younger at those positions. You don't want to sign older guys. You want to get, you want to have a couple of older guys, but you want to have some young talent, some young guns behind those guys. So I think this was a good year to really go in that direction. So give Eric DeCosta some credit. Fun fact. So I looked at this stat. So we had we had the 6 picks in the 4th round. That's the most picks in any draft, in any round of the draft since 1967, if I'm saying that correctly. And going in the fourth round, we drafted, and he was actually, if you paid attention, ladies and gentlemen, in my mock draft 1.0, I had this guy. His name was Daniel Fale out of Minnesota. That's a steal. He is the heaviest player at the combine since 2006. He's obviously going to be some development. To me, I can see him probably playing right tackle. So look for Morgan Moses to mentor him and different things like that. And I forgot him and Rashard Bateman were former college teammates. So I think it's going to be really good. Sticking in the fourth round, 9 picks later, we took Jalen Armour Davis out of Alabama. This was their corner. We like drafting guys out of Alabama. Ozzie Newsome. I liked it. For me, we needed a corner because, again, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, they were coming off injuries, and I'm just saying, no disrespect to these guys, but Kevon Seymour, Amari Marshall, Robert Jackson, and then Kevin Tyler III. That's our corners. And all 4 of them, they don't have an interception. They have no interceptions, which is an interesting stat. But we had to address the depth. And, Anthony Everett is in Las Vegas. So I felt this was good. But the one with sticking in the fourth round, we had drafted Charlie Kolar, tight end out of Iowa State. Now, this was tight end option number 2 behind Mark. I wanted to say Mark Andrews, because I think Nick Boyle never really got it going after his injury. And Josh Oliver, I'm very disappointed. I really thought a change of scenery. I thought I would have seen something. And I do think, to me, I think he's going to be a good red zone target for Lamar. And fun fact, I didn't know this, but he played basketball with Trae Young. So, and again, this is another passenger tight end since we had Hayden Hurst, who got traded to Atlanta. So sticking in the fourth round, we drafted Jordan Stout, out of Penn State. We needed a punter because Sam Cook, most likely this would be his last year. He's getting up. He's 39. So it's probably be his last year. I don't want to see them cut him. I want to see him retire a Raven. I know he has his cap hit is the 3rd highest on the team. And if they cut him, the cap free up is like $2 million. So I feel like at some point this is just another replacement for him when the torch is ready to pass on to him. Last guy we had was Dave Zassadil. That was back in 2002, and then Sam Cook in 2006. So I don't see him being cut. I just see this as a replacement. So, and also, too, you got to be the holder for Justin Tuck. So that means something. And then we got Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. Again, I think these are the type of players that Greg Roman wanted for his offense. I do think that another play catching tight end. He can also go play wide receiver. Fun fact: I do think you're probably going to see the 3 tight end set. You probably will see that. So, I do think with Boyle and Josh Oliver, I see them as cuts for training camp. I don't see them making the team. And then we finished off the fourth round with Damarion Williams out of Houston. Again, this was another corner we needed. To me, I think he's definitely going to be a slot corner now that Trayvon Young was let go of, and I think he really will be good. He finished last season and looked at his stats, 63 tackles and 8 breakups and passes. So I think he will definitely bring some toughness, and he definitely represents what Raven football is, in my opinion. And that was our 4th round. And our last pick for our draft was Tyler Batty out of Missouri. So I had to look him up because I don't really follow Missouri games like that. Last year, he led the SEC in rushing with 1,600 yards. To me, your top 2 running backs, J.K. and Gus Edwards. They're going to come back off injury, unfortunately. So you could see them probably starting on the PUP list, or physically unable to perform list, for those who don't know what PUP stands for. And then also to Justice Hill. To me, I thought Justice Hill would have taken that step forward, but realistically, that just didn't happen. I could see him being cut, and I think he'll make the team. So realistically, looking at these guys and what we did in the draft, I will say the Ravens, I'll give them a solid A. I think that's fair. I think we addressed everything we did in the what we needed in the draft. I don't think wide receiver was the option was like the first thing we should have done when we drafted Marquise Brown. I don't think the wide receiver was that important. We've got 5 months left of football. We can find somebody that's cheap. I've heard Robbie Anderson could be a potential fit. Not really. If Baltimore wants to get interesting, Jarvis Landry. I think he would definitely do well in Baltimore. I think he would definitely mentor the young guys, Bateman, Poche, Duvernay, and Wallace. But Eric DaCosta, in his second year as GM, he did a really good job, and shout out to him, shout out to both teams. They did a really good job in addressing. Oh, I forgot, we drafted David Ojabo. That was another steal. I forgot. I completely forgot about him. I'm like, wait, there's someone I'm missing. David Ojabo. I was surprised. He actually fell right in our lap. Now, he will unfortunately be out for a good chunk of time as he's coming off his injury. Now, I was hoping that Kobe Dean was still available, but that's okay. Because we got the Kobe Dean and David Ojabo. It would have been crazy. But something else. But with Ojabo, he was wildly, to me, I had him in the top 15, and then the injury occurred. To me, you won't see him until next year, which is okay. Right now, it's not because he's out, he does nothing he can really do for us. But I think he's a steal for the draft. He's back with his defensive coordinator from Michigan. And I really do think that him and Odafe Oweh, Patrick Queen, Malik Harris, Jalen Ferguson, I'm hoping will have a good year. He'll step up. You're most likely going to bring back. You're bringing back a guy like Justin Houston. So, the Ravens, man, they did a fantastic job, and the Washington Commanders did a fantastic job too. So, realistically, I thought this was an interesting draft. I will say that for me, I was shocked that Washington moved, and that was really it. Other than that, it was a good draft. I can't wait to see these guys on the field. My go-to, I just think that it was a good draft. Even though I'm mad that for Washington we should have went after Jaquan, but that's okay. So y'all let me know your thoughts on y'all's teams. How'd you guys do in the draft for the team that you represent? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But until then, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Stay up.
Listen, I'm easy to find. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.
Yeah.